Today's idiom is snake in a cup. If you're watching my videos, that means you're smarter than the average human because you want to learn. So the idiom in Chinese is 杯弓蛇影. And as you can see, this side, right? The idiom that just magically appeared on my left, the literal translation is cup, bow, snake, and shadow. What business does a snake have in a cup? Well, you're about to find out. Goodbye, sweetie. Oh. A long time ago, there was a magistrate. This magistrate loved to have little house parties, and he loved providing wine for his guests. One day, he decided to invite his employee by the name of Du Xuan. I'm just going to refer to this guy as Mr. Du. So the magistrate invited Mr. Du to his beautiful house to have some wine, just chat, socialize. When Mr. Du looked down at his cup, his cup was obviously not as cute as mine, he saw a snake in his wine. He was too chicken to say something to the magistrate because the magistrate was his employer. And when your employer is pressuring you to drink wine, you should drink wine. So Mr. Du had no choice but to drink the wine. Mr. Du didn't say anything to the magistrate at this point. He left the magistrate's house feeling kind of queasy, and he was so sure that he was poisoned by the snake in his wine cup. He goes home and he immediately gets sick. He calls the doctor prescribes him some medicine, but nothing seems to be making him feel better. When the magistrate hasn't heard from Mr. Du in a while, he was like, I'm gonna go check him out and see why he's been absent this whole time. The magistrate gets to Mr. Du's place and he goes, you don't look so hot. Why are you sick? And Mr. Du tells the magistrate, man, that one time I went over to your place for some wine, there was a snake in my cup. And the magistrate goes, where the heck could I get a snake? Mr. Du insists that there was a snake in his wine cup that night, and that is why he's sick, because he's poisoned. The magistrate feels like something's not quite right over here, so he goes back to his house, sits down at the same place where he was entertaining Mr. Du that night. Well, that sounds kind of dirty, but you guys know what I mean. And he just looks around his house and he's like, where the heck could the snake have come from? And then a light bulb goes off in his head and he sees a bow hanging on his wall. He brings out another cup of wine and looks at the reflection and sees that it's actually just the image of the bow that's hanging on the wall that somehow beamed its way into the cup. It was just a reflection of the bow. The magistrate happily waltzes back into Mr. Du's house and says, hey man, good news, you're not sick at all. There was never a snake in your cup. It was actually just the bow that was hanging in my wall that somehow reflected its image into your cup. After hearing the story, Mr. Du goes, that makes sense. And suddenly, all of his symptoms disappeared, and he wasn't feeling so sick after all. Yeah, that's the end of that idiom. Chinese people use this idiom quite frequently, but when we use this, we usually think about people who are overly superstitious and is scaring the daylight out of themselves. Those people who think they might have monsters under their bed or in their closets. Those people who think that if you say Bloody Mary in front of a mirror at night 3 times, that Bloody Mary will suddenly appear. And the more you think about Bloody Mary suddenly appearing in your bathroom, the more scared you get, and you get so scared and just freak out and can't sleep at night. I'm totally talking about myself, but that scenario is exactly when we would use snake in a cup. The moral of the story is really your mental state can affect your physical state. Yeah? You and I know that there was never a snake in his cup to begin with, but he convinced himself that there was a snake in his cup and he drank the poison and he got sick. He must have been thinking about this so much that it started to affect him physiologically and he started to show signs of illnesses. It's kind of like when people get those phantom pregnancies, like they want to get pregnant so much and then they start seeing pregnant symptoms, but they're not pregnant at all. Anyways, that's how strong your imagination can be. I just want to end by saying Mr. Du could have prevented all of these crazy symptoms if he had just possibly think about his situation before jumping into conclusions, right? All he had to do is dip his fingers into his cup to see if there was actually a snake. He didn't have to go through all that hell and torment just because he thought there was a snake in his cup. Again, the idiom in Chinese is called 杯弓蛇影. The literal translation is cup, bow, snake, shadow. Emily's translation is there's a snake in your cup. So I hope you guys enjoyed that idiom. Bye guys!